Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, let's test the limits of my English sexual repression. We're talking about Minky Woodcock! Cue the music! Hello there, capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is a show where I talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and are joined each week by a very special different guest. Now, today, capers, we are joined by the aristocracy. She sometimes goes by the name of Countess. Give it up for Cynthia Von Buhler! How are you doing, Cynthia?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing very well on this lovely Edinburgh night.
Is that where you are?
I am in the lovely fair city of Ulriki.
Oh, that's so nice. I thought you were in London. Okay.
No, I can't afford to live in London. Dear God, I'm not made of money. Yeah, it's quite expensive. I went down there recently for a con, and let's just say up here, in a pub, lemonade is like £1.50. It's not that much. Down there, like £2.50, £3. They're robbing me. They're robbing me in lemonade.
Do you drink a lot of lemonade?
I drink a lot of lemonade because, if you can't tell already, I'm quite a hyper-manic person, and were I ever to actually consume alcohol, then, civilization as we know it would be destroyed by me.
I actually drink a lot of coffee myself, but I probably could use some right now.
See, I used to drink a lot of coffee back in university, and there was a time when I briefly turned into basically like a live-action version of Woody Woodpecker, just zipping around the place, going. It was not a good time for anyone around me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to give you any coffee today.
No, but there's plenty of other things for me to get excited about. Don't get me wrong. For starters, this graphic novel you made, Minky Woodcock. Cynthia, I like it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
I really damn like it. It's a really good graphic novel. I read a lot of good graphic novels on the show. This is probably one of the best.
Wow, that's a good thing to hear. Thank you.
It's really fun, and we're going to talk so much about it. We are, but before we do that, we start from the beginning. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What is your reason for being?
Okay, I am an artist first and foremost, and I'm a painter and a sculptor, and I also write books. I've written many children's books, and I illustrate them with three-dimensional dollhouse sets, and I produce and create immersive theater in New York City.
So you're like an actual polymath then.
And I also rescue animals. That's one of my passions.
I mean, capers, let's be honest, Cynthia is now our favourite person. Come on. She rescues animals, people. What's not to like? Oh, God, that's also, you do so many things. And so there's a lot of drive for you in terms of being an artist. There's lots of different avenues for you to express yourself creatively.
I actually do. And I feel like as an artist, you should be able to express yourself in any medium. And, I used to be in a band, and so it's all just making art in any way you can get it out into the world. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, you see, I can only express myself by shouting. That's my main area. The world is my canvas, and my frenzied yells is my brush.
Ah, well, that's good. That's good.
You say it's good. The neighbours don't really agree, but anyway. Okay, and there's so many stuff to talk about. We will talk about a lot of the other stuff you do. But one thing I do want to talk about is Minky Woodcock, and it has a relation to some of the other work you do, because it's very heavily influenced by a particular time period, isn't it?
Yes, she is a prohibition era person. So she is from the book, the Minky Woodcock, the Girl Who Handcuffed Houdini book, is based in 1926. And she's about 21 or 22 in that book. So are you familiar with what prohibition is in our country?
Yeah.
What it was?
I've seen Bugsy Malone. Of course I am. Jeez.
Right. So there was a period in our history when alcohol was not legal. So I'm very attracted to that time period because my grandfather was a bootlegger and he owned 2 speakeasies during Prohibition, and he was murdered actually in 1935, right after Prohibition ended. He was shot dead on the street, and so I'm very drawn to that time period.
Yeah, because it has a very unique sort of place in history, I think, because it was a time when drinking was illegal, and that's when people drank the most.
That's absolutely true. Right. It was because it was,
people who didn't normally drink that much went to speakeasies every night. It's crazy because
it did not work. It definitely did not work, because the whole plan was that people wouldn't drink as much. But I believe that more people were drinking, and it made it more enticing because it was illegal.
I remember learning in school, actually. We never studied Prohibition in any great detail, but I remember learning in school that someone who was in charge of like tracking down bootleggers and stuff, or closing down speakeasies, like got in a cab once, maybe in New York somewhere, and he said like, hey, where's a good place to get a drink around here? Not knowing that he's really like a secret government agent. And the cab driver just pulled out a bottle of whiskey or something out from his glove compartment. It's like, here you go.
Oh, totally. Yes.
When will governments learn that banning things just makes them more popular?
Right, and also the government was corrupt, and the cops were drinking. Everybody was drinking. So if they confiscated any, then they would drink it. So it was a ridiculous law, and I don't think that that's ever been put in place anywhere else, has it?
I mean, well, it's something like Saudi Arabia or somewhere.
Oh well, yeah, you don't drink there at all, right?
Yeah. Well, I heard there's like loopholes and stuff where you can get around to certain places or something, but I don't know because I will never go there.
I actually have been there, and I did drink there. I was in a hotel.
You rebel, you!
Well, there was a hotel in the middle of the desert.
Prime real estate.
And yeah, it was gorgeous. It's where they shot Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie.
Of course, that's where we shot the last Star Wars movie. First Star Wars movie in Tunisia. Hey, you know what? We should film the new one. Let's film in a place with an abominable human rights record. Why not?
Yeah, but it was beautiful. I can see why they would want to shoot there. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
Yeah, let's not judge the actual geography. I reserve judging geography for Wales. Fucking Wales. Don't go to Wales. Trust me.
I've never been to Wales. No.
Don't. People, lovely. Land, shit.
Really?
And I mean that literally, because it's covered in like a thin layer of sheep shit, because they're everywhere. They're fucking everywhere.
But I love sheep.
Oh yeah, sheep are nice. It's just you say that. The sheep in Wales, I know from experience, are particularly judgmental.
Really?
Yeah, because I used to do this thing called the Duke of Edinburgh Award, where you basically went out to the wilderness somewhere and hiked for like a few days and set up camp and stuff, and you earned badges, and maybe you got to meet royalty at the end of it. It's a lot of fun. I really recommend it. Not really. And going out in Wales several times, each time more miserable than the last. And one time, you're in the wilderness. There are things that a human body has to do, and I had to do it. So I said to the rest of my group, like, you go on ahead for a little bit, I'll catch up. So I'm there on the side of a mountain doing my business, and then a small herd of sheep just starts looking at me. Like, there's tons of things they could be doing. They could run off somewhere, they could like graze or something, or just go bar somewhere else. No. They all, every mad sheep of them, just starts staring at me with these reproachful eyes like, how dare you? On our mountain, how dare you? Just like, don't you judge me, you're sheep! You're sheep!
That's hilarious.
At the time, it was fucking terrifying. I thought, this is how I die, on the side of a mountain, killed by sheep, vengeful sheep. No way for a Meridew to die.
Well, I was in London once, and I saw a pigs in a pen, a big pen, and I climbed over the fence to go pet them, and they all started charging at me.
Yeah, pigs can be vicious.
These were big pigs. These were vicious pigs, and I had to get back over the fence.
When I was about 16 or 15 or so, I started doing work experience, because here in the UK we have this thing called work experience. You go out and work for something for free because, child labour, why not? And and the place I went to was a local place. It was called Cogs Manor Farm Museum. It was a farm slash like educational museum sort of place with a manor thing, and it was actually really not a bad place to work. First day I get there, in the new gear, I'm being shown around with this really nice guy, and he says, so over there we've got these things over there, back in that field we've got the donkey, he's really loud, and over there we've got the pigs. And I was like, oh right. And he said, oh, so the sow, the female pig, she just had a litter of piglets. And I was like, oh sweet. And he's like, yeah, she ate them right after they were born.
Oh, why did she do that?
I don't know. I asked. He was just like, nah.
Maybe they were sick.
Maybe, I don't know. I was just kind of horrified. Like, okay, wow, gee, life on a farm is
animals
tough,
don't
kids.
normally do that unless they're sick or if they're born dead, they will eat them. Like birds too.
Possibly, yes, that might have possibly been what happened. I didn't want to elaborate further because I was only a wee lad and not accustomed to the harsh realities of the farm life.
That's a little scary.
God, jeez.
Well,
we were talking about the 1920s at one point. What happened?
What was that?
We were talking about the 1920s at one
we went off on
point.
a tangent. I don't know how that happened.
That happens a lot in this show. You just have to get used to it, dear sweet God. And the 1920s for me, aside from the prohibition thing, it's a weird sort of nebulous time for the UK because, I mean, maybe there are some historians out there, people who know more than me, which, let's be honest, are not tough people to find, who would know more about the 1920s, who would find it a much more interesting time. But for me, the 1920s in Britain is just sort of like a time when nothing really happened. Like, the time between the 1930s and World War One was just sort of like this dead period when nothing really interesting happened. Meanwhile, in America, it was all going on. It was jazz parties and prohibition.
Right. And Paris too was really, really hot in the 20s. But I don't know. I guess England was just still kind of repressed or something.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, the repression thing was big. It's just like, oh, I say, we will not have this jazz malarkey around here. Come on, Ethel, let's go and sit at a table and read separate books separately.
I think that England has been repressed, and then I think when the punk movement came, that's when it changed.
Yes, thank you, Sid Vicious, for uplifting us into the modern era.
Right? I mean, it seems like it.
It seems like it. In certain parts of Britain, it has that movement missed, I can assure you. I've lived in the Cotswolds. Let me assure you, punk bypassed the Cotswolds.
Really? Oh.
Dear God. Imagine, like, the whitest place in the world.
Oh, wow.
That's the Cotswolds right there. Jeez. Again, we were talking about the 1920s. Dear God. So, what I wanted to ask is, what exactly is it about that setting that really appeals to you? Because I know you mentioned, like, the prohibition and your grandfather's murder and all that. But is there anything more about the aesthetic that just appeals to you as an artist, I mean?
Well, a lot. I think that as a woman, it was a time when women started to be more free. They didn't have to wear corsets
anymore. Because you got the vote then.
Anymore.
In America, you got the vote then.
They could cut their hair. They were drinking. They were smoking. It was just a time when women were, they actually, during the war, they took jobs. They were starting to go into the workforce. And then they kept their jobs after the war. And I just feel like it was a time when women really blossomed.
Yeah, because they had like the flapper girl thing.
They could vote, things like that.
Yeah, and that's another thing, because I think someone who I am willing to guess might be a bit of an inspiration for you in regards to this book, at least. Someone who was really at the forefront of that movement, I think, whether intentionally or unintentionally, was Agatha Christie.
Yes, right. And she's in the book, of course. She's a character. And the actual my rabbit, Minky's rabbit, is named Agatha after Agatha Christie. You
have a rabbit in real life, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I got her for the show because we made a play about the book, which ran in the fall. It just ended. And so I found a rabbit. I rescued one, a young one, and now I have her. So she's a beautiful little rabbit.
And now she stars in the book. That's an upward life trajectory right there.
Yeah, well, she was one of the stars in the play that we'd made. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I don't have that much experience of Agatha Christie, but it was sort of this weird constant growing up because my mum is really into them, really into the books and really into like the Suchet specials and all of that. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
No.
Oh my God, like the David Suchet? No, like basically all the Poirot stories get put up on the small screen, and they are fantastic. I've seen a few of them, and they're all really interesting. Sometimes they diverge a little bit from the novels in certain ways, but for the most part, they are really, really good. Like, I don't know if you saw the more recent Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh.
I haven't, no.
Well, see, that's
But
pretty
he's a
good.
great actor.
Oh, he's a very good actor. It's a pretty damn good movie, despite the fact that the mustache looks stupid. But it's
Well, I'm actually not a big fan of crime novels. I haven't read. I much prefer like the Brontes and the Jane Austen, all of that, and Charles Dickens and things like that. I'm not really. Even though I write about crime and investigations, that's not the type of book that I personally like to read.
Oh, we see that way because I'm sort of the opposite. I never really gelled with the Austen and the Brontes, especially, but I really do like the noir and the Christies and like the Miss Marples and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, and not to say I don't dislike Jane Austen, although I will say Wuthering Heights can go suck it.
Well, I actually much prefer Jane Eyre.
I hear that's good.
Very dark story.
Very, very Byronic.
I'm an Anglophile, and I read all of those books, and I don't know what it is about them, but I just sort of devour them.
You rescue animals, you write about crime, you write a great novel, and you're an Anglophile. You're welcome on this show any fucking time. I really mean it. I
actually went to school in London for a little bit.
Oh right, where did you go?
I went to a school called Richmond College. They had an American institute part of Richmond College, and the campus was in Kensington.
Oh, I see. I think I've heard of that. I think that's fairly famous. Well, I've heard of Richmond at any rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the Richmond College, I believe, is in Richmond, but their American studies program is in Kensington.
Of course. Which is
we didn't get much studying done though.
Yeah, of course, you were far too busy having adventures with Peter Pan. Yeah, and what the fuck were we talking? Bronte. No, I'm not going to go into a rant about Wuthering Heights. We don't have the time because there's a much better book I want to talk about, and it's Minky Woodcock. What made you write this story in the first place?
Oh, that's a good question. So I've been creating these plays in New York City. And they're called immersive theater plays, where the audience is kind of part of it, and they come in, they wander through a very elaborate environment that I create. Mm-hmm. And I had created the first one was called Speakeasy Dollhouse, and that was the one about my grandfather. And then I did one called Ziegfeld Midnight Frolic, which is about Olive Thomas, who was the first flapper. And I did another based in even though it was about Edwin Booth and John Wilkes Booth, who killed the man who killed Lincoln. And even though that took place in the 20s, it was a story from the past, but I told it with ghosts in the 20s. So I've been doing these plays, and the publisher of Hard Case Crime mm-hmm. had been to my plays and loved them and asked me if I had any new stories. And I told him that I had been working on one about Houdini. And he was interested in publishing it. I told him a little bit about it. And I had been writing it as a TV series. And my character for the TV series was Minky Woodcock. So when I told him that, he really liked that idea because it would translate really well to a comic series. So now I have this. It started as a TV series. I wrote it as one, and then it became a book and a graphic novel, comic book series, and then it became a play, which we just finished a run of in New York. And now I've been approached by a producer to make it into a TV show. So it's sort of come full circle. That's
right, because I was thinking while reading this would make a great TV series. Because fuck it, if I'm gonna actually read a comic book and just enjoy it for a comic book, come on, I've got to think what else could this be? Because I'm an unsatisfied bastard.
I really do think it would be a great TV series, and these sort of Minky Woodcock is this wannabe private investigator from the 20s who investigates these real life crimes. So it definitely, I think it would be a great TV series.
I think it would be a great TV series as long as you don't do what every single other American police crime procedural TV series does, which is pair up a quirky, free-spirited character with a down-to-earth, serious character who's involved in law enforcement, because it's literally every single show.
No, I would never do that. Never.
And it's almost always the guy who's the fun-loving, zany one, and the girl who's always the serious, down-to-earth one. And I mean,
that's so true. And this is absolutely nothing like that, because she's the zany one. She's the eccentric, and
Yeah,
but it's all about her. It's all about her. She doesn't need a sidekick. Her sidekick is Agatha the Rabbit.
Yeah, fuck everyone, because she gets things done. She gets business done. She is taking care of business.
Right.
When no one else was. And that's what I love about the character before we go too heavily into it. One of the things I noticed was that there are so many characters out there who are willing to let things go, whether it be big conspiracies, small mysteries, or the mundane. And she, as a character, I feel, what makes it so compelling for me is she's not willing to let things go, because that's exactly what I'm like. I'm not willing to let even the small things go, as the people over at Disney can attest to.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I'm not either.
I just find that really appealing. We're going to get into all that. So before the capers, tear their hair off with wondering, what the hell is this book about? Please, could you give us a brief overview of what exactly Minky Woodcock is all about?
Minky is, her father is a famous private investigator who Sherlock Holmes may or may not have been based on him. And
may not have, because I know he was actually based on
someone, right? You know who that was, right? Someone they say who was based on was actually somebody who went to school with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
It was like a
Scotland.
Doctor. No,
yeah.
Actually, I think I read a while ago. I reviewed for actually a place to hang your cape back. I was writing text reviews. I did a review of it was Arthur Conan Doyle and that same person whose name escapes me actually now that I think about it.
Yeah, the name is escaping me, but it was somebody he went to school with. So I'm using that idea. And so Benedict Woodcock, Minky's father, went to school in Scotland with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and so he may or may not have been his. He suggests it to her that it was her father. That the character Sherlock Holmes was based on her father. But anyway, she's a famous private investigator whose mother died mysteriously in London, and so the family picked up and moved to America. And she wants to be a private investigator like her father, but he doesn't want her to. And so he makes her his secretary, and she's not happy about that at all. And he partners with his son, who does not want to be a private investigator, who actually wants to be a showgirl. So it's sort of like the son does not want the job, but the daughter does. And so Minky has she's a little bit of a tomboy in some ways. So you have these two characters in opposite roles. So she wants to become a private investigator. Her father goes on vacation, and then she decides she's going to take a case that comes through the door. So it's sort of like she's going to prove to her father that she can do it.
Absolutely, and God damn it, does she do it? Not without a lot of struggle and not without a lot of sacrifice, I will say.
She's really hands-on.
Very.
And sometimes that can get her into trouble.
Yeah, and that's something I like about this story as well, is that a lot of times with murder mysteries, like there's a murder or something and that's not very good, but the murderer is revealed and they go to prison and justice is served and everything gets wrapped up in a nice little neat bow. Not the case with this story. It's a lot deeper than that, I feel.
That's true. I feel like I'm digging up all the facts and trying to get, just there's a lot of conspiracy theories and things like that out there, but Minky is actually out there finding the facts and then putting them on the table. And
these are real facts, not alternative facts.
It's all real facts. And then she's leaving it up to the reader to decide what happened.
Yeah, because my interpretation, I completely agree, because my interpretation of the book in terms of its like central theme, or at least a theme of it, is the search for truth and this idea of truth. And I'm a big believer in getting the truth out there. But here's the thing a lot of people don't realize about the truth. It's like, it's not really this thing that's either good or bad. It's just a thing that is, and it's necessary and important, but it's not always this nice, fun thing. Sometimes it's
right. It can
bad.
Be messy.
Yeah.
Right. It can be messy, and it's not always tied up with a perfect little bow. And I don't like that myself.
Yeah.
But actually, when I write a book, if I go to see a movie or I read a book and it has true facts in it, and I'm not sure what's real in it, and I go and I want to look it up. I want to read books about it. I want to find out more about it. So I hope that like if somebody reads this story, they'll think, "Wow, is that real? Could that possibly be real?" And because there's so many bizarre things in it, like Marjorie, the spiritualist, and how she did her seances in the nude, and she had these things came out of her, ectoplasm came out of her vagina, and all this crazy stuff.
Wait, what?
But it's true. Like these are things that are true, and actually I Marjorie's granddaughter actually came to our show, and I met her, and that was really interesting. So they're based on real characters, who did really weird things, but then that makes you sort of think about it. Is this real? And then you go and you research it on your own. So it really is about seeking the truth and then letting the reader get so interested, and so they go out and they actually investigate as well.
Because truth is stranger than fiction, and there are some very strange characters in there. And one thing I want to talk about before we go too heavily into it, is another thing that I'm really interested to do is psychics and people who proclaim for the paranormal, because I think, and this is just my personal opinion, and there are some people out there who disagree with me, and there might be some car horns as well, but that's fine. But the point is, I just feel that anyone who says they're psychic is full of wank. Because they're just complete... No.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard that said before, full of wank. I like that expression.
I think it's apt. I think it's apt because, no.
Yes.
No, you're not psychic. You can't read minds. You can't commune with the dead. You can't see the future. Anyone who says they're psychic is either lying, delusional, mentally ill, or just a straight-up con person. Just, no, you can't do this. You've got to wake up. You're going to be late for school.
And that's exactly what Houdini thought. He kind of wanted to believe it, and then he looked around, he couldn't find it. He realized this is all just crap. And so Houdini was going out there and doing his shows, and he was adding a sequence to his shows about debunking spiritualism, because he felt like they were preying on people, especially back then when, people died much more easily. So people were giving a lot of money and they really believed it. And at the time, it was almost like a science. So he really is one of the people responsible for debunking spiritualism and making it not religion or a science, almost a science. He's the one who we can thank for pragmatism.
Yeah, people like Darren Brown and James Randi stand on his shoulders because, he was a true skeptic. As you say, he thought maybe there's something to it. He did some investigating. He found no evidence of it and found out there was actually just a bunch of baloney and drew his own conclusions from that. And I would never dismiss something out of hand, but when you look at all the facts and look at all the evidence, or lack thereof, it's not real, and that's why I get kind of annoyed. Not so much when people believe in it, but when psychics go on television or go on the chat shows and say, "Oh no, it's real, it's really real. I can genuinely commune with the dead." No, you can't. What is wrong with you as a person? Yeah, they're preying on people. What is wrong with you as a person?
A lot of times they're doing it for money, or they're doing it for excitement, or people like the titillation of it. People like the excitement of it. I am also a pragmatist, and for the show we did, it was really about, are you a pragmatist or a spiritualist? So when people bought their tickets, they could choose either one, and then when they arrived for the show, they would be put into a group with either spiritualists or pragmatists, and it was almost like a little bit of a fight, a war between those two sides.
Yeah, and it's weird because I mock people on the show, let's be honest, but I'm trying to mock the belief in spiritualism and the very concepts of the paranormal itself. And a lot of people, when that happens to them, take it as a personal affront and a personal attack on themselves. And that's not the case for me. I'm only attacking the people who actually say these things and do these things because they're the bastards, they're the leeches. But I get that people want to believe in something magic and stuff, but as the great Douglas Adams once said, isn't enough to watch, you could look at a beautiful garden without imagining there's fairies at the bottom of it. Life is beautiful and strange and weird and wonderful and mysterious, and there's so much magic in the world, and the magic takes the form of sunsets, the smiles on babies' faces, that feeling you get when you hold hands with a special someone, watching fucking Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's magic!
That's true.
You don't need this...
I agree with you.
Don't need this bullshit. And looks like we've got an ambulance coming from the burn unit because all the psychics got burned.
Oh, you can hear it?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Well, I'm in New York City, so it's very loud here.
Nah, it's fine.
Although my dog's being very quiet.
Good boy. Well done.
He just looked over.
Oh,
good boy.
He heard me.
Yes, good boy, puppy.
Oh, nice. So
That's
let's...
Puppy Von Buhler.
Puppy Von Buhler. Does he have like a type of title as well? Is he like a duke or an earl?
Oh no, but you know what's funny is that I'm actually related to Princess Diana.
What?
Through an illegitimate line. So my family is related to, my grandmother her name was Sforza. She was a Sforza, which was sort of like the Medici family.
Oh, wow.
In Italy. They were the ruling class, and so
in like the Florence area,
Sforza,
right?
And then it's SFF. Let's see, SFORZA. Sforza. It means force.
Isn't that a kind of supercar?
I don't know, but it's but through an illegitimate line. I'm not legitimate. But
you're not going to be stealing the throne from Meghan Markle anytime soon.
No, but through an illegitimate line, I am related to Princess Diana.
You see, that's almost as impressive as my sort of connection in terms of heritage. Because I don't know if you know this, Capers, but there is a small chance, a teeny tiny, itty bitty, distant chance that I am very, 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 very distantly related to former Prime Minister David Cameron. Which I don't look on as sort of a prideful thing. Like, I'm not pleased about that, because I'd rather have absolutely zero connection with that man whatsoever. Multiculturalism isn't gonna fail, you bastard! But, that's a whole separate thing.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, yeah.
Because like, my grandmother's maiden name is Chalmers, and it's from her that I have my Scottish heritage, because, like, she's not Scottish herself, but her family is or was, and, Chalmers is, as a family name, it's a sept, or like a cadet branch, or like a split-off branch of Clan Cameron, of which David Cameron is a member, despite the fact that he's about as far away from a Scotsman as you can get.
Interesting.
Yeah,
huh. Well, at least you're not related to May, their prime minister now.
Oh, thank God! I don't know what actually, no, there is still a connection there, because I used to live in Berkshire when I was a kid, one of many places I lived, and I used to live in a little village called White Waltham, which I ever return there will be to blow the fucking place up. But near the closest like town to White Waltham was Maidenhead, which is the constituency of Theresa May. So as you can imagine, aside from the Cotswold, it is also the whitest place on earth.
Oh, it's just that's all this conservatism going around the world is really scary.
Oh God, I've seen this for a while now, because
Brexit. You're not for Brexit, are you?
Fuck no, I have more than half a brain.
I just received my citizenship, my Italian citizenship.
Oh wow!
And I'm really disappointed that now that if you're leaving the EU, I can't move to England. Because I'm part of the EU.
We're not going to leave the EU. It's not going to happen. There's been recent...
You don't think it's going to happen?
There's been recent developments. I don't have all the facts. I'm not that politically knowledgeable. But from what I understand it, basically, the deal that Prime Minister Theresa May has put forward is complete and utter bullshit. And
right, everybody's laughing at her.
Everybody's laughing at her, including her own party, several members of which have resigned very recently.
Sounds like Donald Trump.
Oh, no, because Donald Trump fires people. These people, they are leaving voluntarily because they realise this isn't going to work, Theresa. This is the future of our country, and the plan you put forward is stupid and ridiculous, and it's not going to work. And the EU are over there saying, yeah, we're not going to accept this, so you're just going to get a no-deal Brexit, which would be disastrous. So Theresa May is basically stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I have it on fairly decent authority, and by fairly decent authority, I mean that one guy I work with and mentioned me in the break room this morning, that either Theresa May will say, okay, you know what, we're going to have a second referendum, in which case we'll have a second referendum, and the entire country will wake up and realise, oh yeah, this was stupid, and we won't have it, because although, we put our trust in
you can vote again, because I think people didn't realize. People voted for it as a joke or something. They didn't realize it was going to really happen.
There was a disturbing amount of people who thought that their vote didn't count, despite the fact that they've been told for months that their vote fucking counted and this was what the whole vote was about. It was actually kind of amazing and disheartening. And it's especially weird living in Scotland at the time, because I voted in Scotland and voted against it. I will stand proud of saying Remain. And so did most, if not all, of Scotland. And I remember on the night of the referendum, referendum, seeing the results come in, and blue was for leave, yellow was for remain. All of Scotland was painted yellow. Yeah, and so
Interesting.
it is very, very interesting. And basically, from what I understand it, there are very little legal avenues for Brexit to happen, and if it did happen, it would be utterly disastrous, and Theresa May would basically be hunted down and shot like the foxes she wants to shoot. So, because like when I was growing up even further than Berkshire, when I was growing up in the Cotswolds in Oxfordshire, when I was in secondary school there, every single day I had to drive by a big billboard in the countryside saying "Fight the ban." That was the ban on fox hunting. That was the place I was in. That was the environment I was in. That was how conservative it was, because people were demanding the right, English right, to chase down defenseless animals that
Poor
are
little animals.
that are
Foxes
eating
are so
chickens that we
beautiful.
don't have for our own entertainment and sport, using gangs of dogs and weird stupid jackets and horses. Tally-ho, Dobbin! Yip yip! Ugh, it's so fucking stupid. We were talking about something good at one point. Again, let's get back to something good. Minky Woodcock. So what exactly is Minky Woodcock, that we described the premise of it. What is the actual story? What is the mystery that Minky Woodcock is investigating?
Okay, so in this series, because this was a series of 4 comics, and it's going to continue, but in this one, the episode is called "The Girl Who Handcuffed Houdini," and she is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle tries to hire her to spy on Houdini, to find out if he's a spiritualist and not a magician, if he has secret powers. And so he invites her to a seance, and then during that seance, she decides that it's just a bunch of nonsense, and she tells him she doesn't want to take the case. And then she goes off and she actually meets Houdini's wife, who is mad because she thinks her husband's cheating on her. And so she hires Minky to find out if her husband's cheating on her. So Minky goes on tour with them as his assistant, and her case is just to find out if he's cheating on Beth Houdini. But then she gets drawn into this whole much larger storyline. And then when Houdini mysteriously dies, it's like Minky has a bigger case, and that's figuring out, was he murdered or not?
Yeah, and it turns out there's a lot of people out there that want him dead. The psychics and the spiritualists and the spiritualist supporters at the time truly wanted him dead.
They wanted him dead. They predicted he would die. They predicted he would die before November, in October. I think they said one person predicted he'd be dead before Halloween or by November 1st, and the odd thing was he did die on Halloween. So there's a lot of really questionable things about his death.
It's an easy prediction to make when you're wishing for him to be dead and trying to kill him.
Yes. I mean, well, we don't know for sure that people were trying to kill him, but there's a lot of things point towards that. For one, the person who punched Houdini, Houdini, most people know that he was punched, and people would test his strength. And he was up in Canada on tour, and a student asked to punch him, and punched him so hard that he supposedly got appendicitis. But the person who punched him was actually a spiritualist. He was an older student who was a spiritualist with connections to the prime minister. And so it's like all of these things, it's not what's in the history books about Houdini. There's a lot of information out there that is actually true, like the fact that the person who punched him was a spiritualist, like the fact that when he was on his deathbed, he was given an experimental serum. Now, there's nothing out there now about what was this experimental serum, and then he died right after receiving it. So there's all this really weird stuff out there, and so Minky kind of puts it out there for you, and you can kind of decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah, and it really is this sort of thing of well, I think one of the best murder mysteries and one of the best stories is one that it's sort of like done in a downward spiral pattern where things get all the more complicated and is just sucked into this whirlpool of intrigue and mystery, and it really draws you in. I had to read this while I was commuting to my day job, on the bus. And let me tell you, Capers, for the younger readers, there is a fair amount of nudity in this. That's why I mentioned my sexual repression at the beginning. And It's not something you really want to read on the bus, let me put it that way. When there are people out there, like, staring over your shoulder, like, what the fuck is that guy reading? It was very... You made me uncomfortable, Cynthia!
I'm sorry, but, like, she's just being a woman. She's just being, a person and going about her life and doing things. And
It's really annoying for me because I believe in sex positivity. I believe that sex is perfectly okay and natural, and what happens between two or more consenting adults is absolutely fine. And even one consenting adult is absolutely fine, and it's not something you should be ashamed of. But I am ashamed of it because I'm English. It's like there's two things going. It's like the Native American proverb of two wolves fighting inside of you, and it's just like they're equally strong. I don't know what to do.
But it's just like prohibition. If you put a taboo on it, then it just makes it even more titillating and exciting. And that's why I find that so many there's a lot of repression. Like there's a lot of British repression, and there's a lot of people into S&M in England.
Yeah, mainly conservative politicians.
Like I think it's just because it's a little bit repressed, and you have to kind of, tamp it down a little bit. And that's not how I live my life. My life, here is, everybody is just walks around naked all the time.
You're a freewheeling bohemian countess artist, of course.
I mean, most of my friends are burlesque performers, and it's very natural, and
I should move there, honestly. Oh, God. It's better in Scotland. Well, everything's better in Scotland. I don't know what I'm saying. Everything's better in Scotland. But even so, a bit colder, though, so a bit difficult to walk around naked.
Well, they made it legal. I don't know. What is it in where you are? It's legal now that women can walk around topless in New York.
Well, that's great.
I mean,
that would be enough.
If men can, why can't women?
Absolutely, because, like...
But it's not legal on Facebook.
I mean, I don't understand what I think.
You get kicked off Facebook. You get put in Facebook jail if you put a picture of naked breasts. It's not fair.
Because yes, for many people, breasts are, shall we say, titillating. I've never said that word before and never will again. But but I don't understand why. I heard once that they were described as genitals. That's not what they are. That's not their purpose. Their purpose is for breastfeeding children. That's it. I'd rather have something that
somebody referred to breasts as genitals.
The sexual education in Britain is awful. Okay.
Genitals.
I don't know. This is the early 2000s in Berkshire, conservative Berkshire. My sex education was divided between a primary school, which was a Church of England primary school, and a secondary school, which was a non-denomination secular secondary school, which was a lot better, but still not exactly comprehensive. The most I remember from my sex education when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, well, no, 9, 10, 11, that's sort of the age we would do it. In school was we were shown these videos, not those kind of videos, get your mind of the gutter capers, and it was these videos of the differences between girls and boys, and there was one video I remember completely, where a guy kid, that's the thing people say, is playing a video game, and the girl's like, come on, we need to do this thing, and the kid's like, not now, I need to blow up the Death Star, I need to destroy the Empire, and the girl grabs the joystick from him and blows up the Death Star. It's like, there, Death Star destroyed, now we can go. And the narrator says, you see, girls can play video games too. And it's just like, I already know that. What? I have a sister that I play video games with. I did. That's the only thing I remember.
Education? That is so ridiculous.
Yes. Welcome to the nightmare that is the British education system.
It was called Learning About Myself and Others, and it was in 6th grade, and it was more about, they would show animals or how animals did it and things like that.
I remember seeing a clip of an American old PSA, and it's like a little kid going to various people, strangers, saying, hello, I'd like to learn about the male penis. Librarians and zookeepers who then have discussions with this small random stranger child about the male penis as opposed to the female penis. Actually, there's some females out there that can have penises, thinking about it, but anyway. And it's weird. It's like the zookeeper goes to the zookeeper and says, I'd like to learn about male penis. And the zookeeper's like, well, kid, as a zookeeper, I do see a lot of penises. This is not an appropriate conversation.
That's true. They do. You can learn a lot. Well, you can learn a lot about life through animals.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh God. And so there is a fair amount of nudity and sex in it, but it's the thing is, it's not exploitative. I want to put it that way. It's not done for the sake of sex. There's a point of it in all of the examples of it.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like, it just seems natural, especially like during the play. I had people say, wow, it just seemed like there's parts when she's seducing Houdini, but then there's parts when she's just on the phone naked and she's going about her business, and it's just natural.
Because people go about their business in their own home naked.
It wasn't like she didn't always have to be a sex object when she was naked. She could just be walking around doing something. And, so, and then, of course, the Marjorie character, that's based on truth. That's based on a fact that this woman, the spiritualist Marjorie in the 20s, she was doing her seances in the nude. And, which at the time, that was pretty daring, like pretty shocking.
Yeah, yeah, and there's the scenes with her when she does that. I mean, it's clear that I want to say it's part of the act or something. Maybe she's doing it to distract people, or maybe she's doing it because she wants to.
Yeah, definitely to distract people, I think, or to and it worked because a lot of scientists sort of fell in love with her, and
that will happen when a woman gets undressed in front of you during intimate social gatherings. It's.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but what she does is incredible. Like what she did, like with the hand.
Oh, Sir Arthur, why are you involved with this? And that's something else I want to touch on. It's I know we talked about psychics before. We need to move on from that a bit. But when Minky confronts Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with was he knighted? I don't care. Arthur Conan Doyle with the information and the evidence that actually it's all fake. Like she said, I saw this guy who was doing some things. I don't want to go into spoilers. But
yeah.
And then he says like, I would have thought you had a bit more faith, young lady. And it's just like, dude, she just explained to you why it's like.
Well, he believed in it. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle really, really believed in spiritualism, and he was friends with Houdini, and then they got in a pretty big fight about it because Sir Arthur believed it. He wrote books about it.
Believed in the Cottingley fairies and all that nonsense?
Yeah, he believed in all of that. So, which is pretty crazy because Sherlock Holmes was a pragmatist. So it's interesting. I mean, that obviously wasn't him, but he seriously believed in it, and and I guess in this day and age, he's been proven wrong. Houdini was correct, obviously, but interesting.
It is really interesting. Arthur Conan Doyle is always fascinated. That side of him has always fascinated me because of the character he created, and I think it ties in again to this whole idea of this theme, I think, of truth, yes, but also validation. I think Minky wants to be validated as a private investigator, but the psychics and the paranormal believers also want to be validated in their work. The problem is, Minky is willing to work hard to be validated on her own terms and prove to herself through hard work and evidence and pragmatism, as you say, and just getting the job done. The psychics want to be validated by removing opposition and denying truth and preserving their belief systems and structures.
That's true. I actually like that idea. That's actually really astute. That there is a lot of there's valid people do want to be validated in it. She does want to be validated. She wants to be validated by her father. Now, there's more to that story, which you'll find as you read the coming episodes. There's a reason why her father doesn't want her to be a private investigator. It relates to her mother's death.
Dun, dun, dun.
But I don't want to give spoilers there, but that part of the story is going to be revealing. But yeah, she does want validation. She wants, she's interested in, she's curious, a very curious person.
Yeah, but it's also not just about her own goals. It's also, again, it's this noble pursuit of truth. And when I say noble, I mean noble for better or for worse. This idea of the truth hurts, but we're going to get it out there because people need to know these things. And I cannot abide hiding the truth to protect others. Because there's a good way to present the truth and a bad way to present the truth. I wouldn't go up and insult someone and then just say, hey, I'm just being honest, because that is something a dick would do. But but at the same time, if there's something I would never hide the truth from someone. Maybe I wouldn't tell them immediately, but if they asked about something, I would say, yeah, this is the thing. Because no one wants stuff to be hidden from them. And some things need to be kept secret, like state secrets, I guess. We don't need to tell the Russians everything. Dear God, they're going to find it for themselves, I guess, one day. But at the same time, like, so many people just hide the truth just because it's easier, because it causes less of a fuss. Like, I really hate, like, in movies where there's some great conspiracy about a threat to the public, and someone, like the hero, says, "Why aren't you revealing this to the public?" And the people behind says, "Well, we don't want to cause a panic." And that always makes me hang my head and just scream at the screen in the middle of the cinema where people are watching, just like, yes, okay, it would cause a panic for, like, 5 minutes, because human beings, surprisingly, are actually really adaptable to stress and bad news. They panic for a little bit, and then they stop, they calm down a little bit, and they realize, wait a minute, why did you keep us from why did you keep this from us? Why did you hide this up in the first place? And what the hell are we actually going to do about it? And it really annoys when people try to cover up the truth, because they're not really trying to cover up the truth, they're trying to cover their own asses.
That's true, right? That's exactly true.
Release your tax reforms, Trump!
I hope so.
They're gonna take it from him if he doesn't release them, jeez. Side tangent, dear God! And so, would it be safe to say that there's a lot of parallels? You mentioned this before, but I want to go further into this. There's a lot of parallels between this story and the character of Minky, and I guess, would it be safe to say your fascination with your grandfather's murder? Would that be an okay thing to say?
Yes. I mean, that's what started my whole life. I wanted to know what happened to my grandfather, because my mother was born on the day he died. It was a really weird story. Like, he just, like, no one ever talked about him. I just knew that he had speakeasies. He owned speakeasies, and he was a bootlegger. My grandmother helped him. She'd ride on the truck shotgun with him. And even though she was like this really religious woman, and when he died, it was my grandmother was pregnant with my mother. She went into shock and gave birth to my mother on the day that he died. So they had his funeral was in one room, and my mother was born in the other room. So this was a sort of story that I wanted to explore, and nobody ever did. And then when I moved to New York, I started looking into it to find out what happened. And I did a play about it for 5 years, and I figured out what happened for the most part. And I just realized I'm a very curious person, and I also I'm good at investigating. So then I started investigating other Prohibition era murders, and just because I find them fascinating. So
I think
but that's what got me started. The whole story of my grandfather is what got me into this.
Because I think again, we've talked about like truth and validation, stuff like that, and self-exploration. But I think another theme, I'm thinking very thematic today on this episode. Another theme of Minky Woodcock is this sort of this fascination with the unexplained, the mystery side of things. Because there's fascination with murder, with mysterious deaths, and the strange scenarios surrounding them. There's fascination with, and psychics are fascinated with what happens after death and crossing that threshold, the veil between the mortal coil and the life everlasting. And it's interesting what fascination and curiosity can lead some people to do.
It's true. I mean, I'm an extremely curious person, and I like to ask questions because there's so much we don't know, where really humans are really quite stupid. And the more we can learn about each other and the world and nature and everything, the more, the more power we have, really, of our surroundings. So I'm a really very curious person. Yeah, and Minky is as well.
I think I am too, because like I'm a writer as well, not a successful one, but still. And the very first feature-length screenplay I ever wrote, it was for my undergraduate university final major project sort of thing, and several ideas I was toying with, but I eventually settled because I heard this rumor about a bunch of Nazi gold that had been like taken out of Croatia during World War II and stored in the Vatican Bank, and it's supposedly still there. And I did a lot of research on that, and there's not a lot of research to back it, a lot of evidence without an actual search of the bank, and which they won't allow you to do because it's the Vatican Bank, so therefore it's special. And I based it around the story about a bunch of people going on a heist of the Vatican Bank and trying to find all this Nazi gold. And it wasn't it's not a good story, believe me, it's a terrible script, but still, it's like it was my first one. Give me a break.
It's interesting. No, but that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
It's you're curious. You want to figure it out. Like,
I do.
Now I'm curious. Is that, why is it there? How did it get there? And what are they doing with it? That kind of thing.
And the more mysterious I think, the more I want to find out. Like, And it's actually kind of frustrating because, going back to the murder aspect, a few years ago, I don't know if you heard, there was someone said or proclaimed to have made a big break in the case, like a genuine first-time big break in the case of figuring out the identity of Jack the Ripper. Like, the number one mysterious serial killer identity we all want to know.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
And it turned out, no, it's not
true.
this guy. And I was really disappointed. I was like, damn it, because this means we're never gonna know who he was. And,
right.
I mean, partially that's, like, the poor woman that he murdered, those 5, 6 women, I can't remember how many, that he murdered, they're never going to get justice exactly because it's been 100+ years. But at the same time, like, I think we ought to drag this mysterious figure into the light and show him for the monster that he was. He'll never get justice because he's long dead now. But at the same time, like, I think... I don't know. I think this is something that we need to know, partially for pure personal curiosity satisfaction. You know, that a bit selfish, I admit, but also because when something becomes less mysterious, when you drag it into the light and take a peek behind the curtain, you can see how something bad but also like mysterious and evil sounding and threatening and scary can actually be quite mundane. And maybe even a little silly, but also small and pathetic. Because this was when you really boil down to it, this was a Jack the Ripper, whereas one person or 7 people was a very pathetic individual who preyed on women and clearly had a lot of fucking issues, let me tell you that much. And he deserves to be shamed for that publicly beyond this persona of Jack the Ripper or the Silver Knife or the Lead Apron or the Whitechapel Ghost or whatever you want to call him. People like that need to be dragged into the light and the truth needs to be out there.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to know.
I'd love to know. And that's why I love so much at the end of the murder mystery novels when the killer is revealed in court. And here... that's kind of the case. There's a bit of ambiguity about it, maybe a less of ambiguity, and a lot of stuff is left up to the reader. But it's also, like, the truth doesn't necessarily get out. Minky wants to get the truth out there, someone else doesn't really want to, and you understand the reasons for doing so. And you think that the novel, I was just like, oh, okay, here we go with a bad, somber ending, and it's going to be really depressing and stuff. But no, because it ends on, the thing we touched on earlier, the validation. Minky, by the end... at the beginning of the novel, Minky wants to be a private investigator. And, spoiler alert, by the end of the novel, she is a private investigator. Even if she's not recognized as one, she is one, because that's who she is.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. It comes full circle there, doesn't it?
It comes full circle, and it's so satisfying and earned. It's really, really good ending.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it. Thank you.
So it's a really good beginning, really good ending, and all the middle parts are great as well.
And it also, I'm glad you got that, but it also then leaves the door open for the next episode. But it's true, you know, she wants something, and then she works really hard, and she attains it by the end. And it may not be the thing, you know, it's sort of that whole say, like, you might not get what you want, but you get what you need. Yeah. You know, like she's getting what she you know, she didn't end up getting the case figured out completely.
But she got herself figured out.
She didn't get the recognition for that, but she did become a private investigator. In her and especially in her father's eyes, she proved to him that she had her shit together.
Absolutely, and I think it's a bit of a coming of age thing in that regard. I didn't realize she was like late 20s. I thought she was like mid 20s, late 20s, or something like that. But early 20s, I meant. But
I think she's kind of like in her mid. I did the math at one point. She's in her young 20s, the early 20s.
Her age doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter because actually the next episode is going back in time.
Oh, okay.
So like it's gonna jump around a little bit. Like as long as it's that general area, it's gonna jump around a little.
Next time on the Minky Woodcock Adventures, Peril in the Past.
Little time travel going on there.
Trust me, I've experienced with that. It's not all bag of fun. Trust me. We won't go into that. And I always want to talk about the art style now, because you did a graphic novel before this, didn't you?
I did.
But you,
I'm a painter, so I'm really good at like making art in all different styles. But my main painting style is sort of this Renaissance style with three-dimensional objects. Sometimes I'll put cages with like live birds and things in them and then photograph them. And I've done, covers for Rolling Stone, and like I did a lot of illustration for many years, and then I kind of stepped away from that to do my books. So
did a lot of children's books as well.
yeah, I did children's books, and then I was so excited when I learned that I could do books, graphic novels, which are basically picture books for adults. Because
No, they're picture books for everyone.
Picture books for everyone. Well, I mean, I don't know if mine are for children. But,
fair enough.
But as a children's book author, I love animals and all of that. But I felt really a little bit sort of tamped down. Like I couldn't do what I wanted and just be free to put whatever I wanted in it. A lot of times they'd say, "Oh, that's too dark" or whatever. And I think children like darkness.
Yeah, but, trust me. Yeah, like
definitely. But it's the adults who have to buy it, or the adults who have to put their stamp of approval on it that are afraid. But children like it. So I felt like when I discovered, I actually did a book. I illustrated Evelyn,
which is a band, isn't it?
Well, yes, it's a band. There's a woman named Amanda Palmer, and she's a musician. She's married to Neil Gaiman. And
really? Oh wow.
Yeah, and he actually wrote the afterword for that book.
I saw that. Yes, he described your artwork as what wonderful. He's in love with it. He was mesmerized by it.
What did he say? It was, she's a wonder. I was seduced by her artwork or something like that. But
which is pretty much the nicest thing anyone can say about everyone when it comes from Neil Gaiman, because like,
oh, he's the nicest person. He's such a sweet person, and I've actually done some art for him and his wife. Like they did this series called An Evening with Neil Gaiman and Amanda Palmer, where they would do these sort of talks with people. So I did this, I did a portrait of the two of them with this paper cutout, and it was actually quite beautiful. And so they used that on a lot of things. And of course I did this graphic novel with her. And when I did that, I realized, wow, I really love doing graphic novels, and it's I can do this with adult themes. So it's a way I can do picture books, because I have no interest in writing novels. I'm an artist first, and an author and a writer second.
Well, prose is a kind
I like
of
showing
art.
through pictures. Well, I mean, it is, of course, but I like showing rather than telling.
Yeah.
Having the writing be simple, and then having the complication of the expression and what the descriptions be visual. And that's how I like to communicate. And whether it's in, a play or something, or a book, like, of course there's a script, but the visuals are so important to me because I'm a visual person.
And the visuals are very, very striking. I did want to ask, what was it like? Because you had previously illustrated and you've done paintings and stuff. So was it like pairing that with a full script and dialogue and stuff like that?
It's a lot of art. It's a lot. And I had to do it under a very tight deadline because we didn't have it all done before we were starting, and so I was doing them as they were coming out. So like my publisher would call me and say, "You have 2 more weeks, get it done." And so I was, just drawing like a mad woman. And this is not simple drawings because it's fairly realistic. So it's not something you can just I'm very quick. I'm a quick artist, but I also, like for that amount of work, it's a lot. So it was tiring. It was hard. I love doing it and I'm proud of it, but I definitely have a great deal of respect for comic artists because it's a lot.
It is a lot. But it came so well. It is so perfectly fitting for this genre and these themes and this time period and this aesthetic. It perfectly matches it without trying to like completely ape the 1920s style, but still feel reminiscent of it. And actually the actual art style, the way you literally drawn it, reminds me a lot of the artist Mike Allred. Are you familiar with his work?
What's his name?
Mike Allred. He's done things like
No.
he's done iZombie, Madman, and a bit more recently the Silver Surfer comic series, which I recommend to fucking anyone because it's amazing. And check it, it's sort of like pop art.
That out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll check that out. That sounds really interesting. Like, if you have anyone that you want to recommend, I take a look at. Yeah, I really, I wanted it to definitely look like I love from reading comics when I was younger. Like I missed that like the pulpiness feel to it. I feel like comics have become really like slick and computer generated looking, and I wanted it to feel really like like I wanted it to look really hand drawn and then have the texture of the paper there. So that was really important of me to have that texture and have that pulpy kind of printing process look to it.
I didn't really get that because I got a PDF of it, so unfortunately. But...
Well, many people describe it as, it has that. Many people have described it as looking like stained glass, and I think that's interesting because that's not like what I was necessarily going for. But I do like many levels of texture. So when I'm making art, like the layers, I like layers.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't? Like bakers love layers. But I get what they're saying about. I get what they're saying about. Like it's like the colors. I mean, the colors stand out when they have to. They're very vibrant. But these certain things like Minky be wearing like a red dress amongst like darker muted colors in the background, like if she's in a dark alleyway or something, and they stand out. But it's great because they're not vibrant or clashing anyway. It's not garish. It's really been very eye appealing and very eye-catching, but also at the same time like not garish or overstated. It really fits perfectly.
Right, like there's lots of sepia tones to them, and
because like I'm looking at this one.
It's very deep color, deep, rich, like jewel tone colors, but not like that saturation where it does look garish. There's a difference between a jewel tone, which is a dark, rich color, compared to like a bright neon type color. So I'm always much more interested in the jewel tone color.
So I have difficulty.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. I have a bit of difficulty differentiating color because I always wear red and blue 3D glasses, so it messes me up a little bit. But it does stand out. And also I like it because the thing with the pop art stuff, and a problem I do kind of have with Mike Allred, not a lot, but it's like one personal criticism I have, is that it's that sort of style, that sort of semi-photorealistic style. It's not exactly photorealistic, but still, it's very difficult for me in terms of facial expressions. I feel it's very limiting in terms of facial expressions, in terms of how naturalistic it can be, and also compared to slightly more, for want of a better phrase, cartoonish sort of art styles. But I don't think that's the case with yours, because I could clearly tell what all the characters were thinking or feeling by the look on their faces. Nothing was ever ambiguous for me. Everything felt very on the page when it needed to be. And it's amazing for me how you managed to sidestep that for me a little bit. There was a couple of times where I was like, oh, is this going to go the way I think it's going to go? But no, you managed to pull it off.
Interesting. Oh, I'm looking at his work online.
Mike Allred's, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
It's very...
Yeah, I can see that the colors too are it's similar, like these sort of...
Look, if you look up at him and Silver Surfer and the woman...
Surfer.
Silver Surfer, Mike Allred, and the girl, the woman in the red ladybird dress. It's
okay.
I mean, when she and he are soaring amongst the cosmos, it's beautiful. Marvel, make a movie about that.
I'll have to check it out some more. Interesting.
Forget New Warriors. Focus on that. Actually, no, don't forget New Warriors, because I fucking want Squirrel Girl and I want her now. Jeez. And so you're talking about the pulp aspect and the hardball stuff. That is really a big a selling point of this line of comics, this comic company, Hard Case Crime, that you talked about. Right.
And the publisher of Hard Case Crime has a very, very strong aesthetic of what he likes. And, so he does like things to be fairly realistic looking. He likes things to be sexy. He likes those old pulp novels. He started as a publisher of pulp novel, like these, now he has Stephen King writing them, it's pretty amazing. But
Stephen King, Michael Crichton, Clive Barker? Was Clive Barker involved in it?
I don't think Clive Barker did one.
Okay. But a lot of people, and yeah, because like, I don't have that much familiarity with it, but I remember like hearing about things like Flash Gordon and Bulldog Drummond and those sorts of things, and they were very realistic. They were designed to be as weirdly naturalistic as possible, despite all the weird, strange, zany shit going on around them.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I love those old comics. I think that they're really beautiful and well done and well drawn. So it was kind of a challenge to try to do that, and
And it's great because of this sort of fascination we have with nostalgia, especially of that time period. There's a time period from the 90s to the 2000s where a lot of pulp characters like the Phantom and the Shadow and things like that. I think Mandrake the Magician has been in the works for a while now, and this is we're trying to bring these characters back in a way because it harkens back to I don't know, a different time and a much more fascinating time in terms of the comics.
People are definitely drawn to nostalgia.
And then you have the Spirit.
For good or for bad, I don't know. It's true.
When it comes to the bad, it's the Spirit. Fucking Frank Miller. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Oh, God. There's again, separate rant. I can't fucking talk about Frank Miller right now because we'll be here till the cows come home.
When I was back in Boston, I had a band and I used to do these music compilations, and Frank Miller did art for me for that. I should dig that up somewhere. A while ago.
How long ago was it? How long ago exactly was it?
It was in the late 1990 something.
Okay, so that was back when Frank Miller was all right.
He was doing posters.
Yeah,
he was doing mostly poster art, right?
Yeah, because he was really good around that time. In the 80s and the 90s, he was really, really good. And then 9/11, then 9/11 happened, and he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Oh, really?
Do not. I don't know if you met him. I'm sure he's lovely in person, but his latest work is bad, and I mean bad in every sense of the word. Like, it's bad to read, it's bad to look at. And is that even the dog agrees with me? See, he's so angry about.
That is not my dog. That's a neighborhood dog.
Oh dear, and
that's coming from outside.
It's an outside dog.
There are so many dogs. People have so many dogs here in New York City.
It's weird. You would think that most places wouldn't allow them.
Oh, they allow them. They're everywhere here. Little dogs. That was a little dog, I think, outside. Now my dog got all excited. Okay, calm down. It's okay.
It's not about you, dog. It's fine. It's fine. God. Thank God that the dog's bark, because otherwise I would have gone on another rant about Frank Miller. So let's talk about some.
He's a lovely man. I mean, when I talked to him, my dealings with him, he seemed very nice. So.
Well, I'm sure he was at the time. Now he's a bit, little bit Islamophobic, a little bit sexist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't read Holy Terror. Don't. It's not. Oh. It's. I don't know him. I don't know him personally. I would never claim to know someone personally, but based on his work is not good, and it's. But I'll tell you whose work is good. It's your work. We're going to veer quickly off to that and talk about some of your other work. So we talked about actually quite a lot of your work. You've done so many things. You've done fine art. You've done illustration. You've done music. We haven't talked about your music a lot. What sort of music have you done?
Oh, I was in a band. Well, it was my band. It was an all-female S&M band called Women of Sodom.
And I'm uncomfortable now. Why did I ask? Oh, God.
Yeah, and then that was pretty crazy. And then I had another band I did for a little bit called Countess, which was a rock opera about the music industry, because for a little while I was managing a band that was signed to Capitol Records, and I was very involved in the music industry while I was still doing my art too.
What haven't you done? What haven't you done?
I don't cook.
Fair enough. Cooking is boring. I've tried it. You're just sitting there watching things slowly get worse and worse and worse until you get them at just the perfect amount of worse before they go bad worse.
I can't relate to it. I don't know people who like to watch cooking shows, or I just find it so boring. What a thing I've done recently. I watched an episode. I don't know if you've seen The Curious Creations of Christine McConnell. No.
It's very, very interesting. It's about this woman, Christine McConnell. Baking and making all sorts of different arts and crafts. But they're all done spooky Tim Burton-esque. She creates this giant cake that's based around this creepy house that she lives in, with a giant werewolf, a mummified cat, and a reanimated raccoon puppet.
Oh, that sounds like my sister does things. My sister actually likes to bake, and she does some kind of spooky things like that.
It's probably like that. It's very, very interesting, and it's very, very well done. And you really admire her craft and this weird, sort of spooky, not exactly Tales from the Crypt, but sort of lighter-hearted version of that sort of aesthetic that she's going for. But the whole time I'm watching that, I'm just thinking, yeah, I just want to eat that, but I can't because it's in the TV and I'm out here.
Well,
and I can't
I
make
feel like
that,
food,
so...
as art, I feel like food is so fleeting because you just like you cook it and you make it and then you eat it and then you shit it out. So it's sort of like it doesn't. It's just it doesn't. It seems so fleeting to me. It's not like a book or something where you have something more lasting. So I just can't relate to it. But I actually was a cake once. There's pictures of me up online where for a birthday party I actually had a cake built around me. So have you ever seen those cakes with Barbie in them?
No, what?
Oh, like when I was growing up, they would do this thing where they would like make a cake and they would put Barbie in the center, and then the cake was her skirt. So I made this massive cake made around me, and then all my guests got to eat the cake while I was in it, while I was the cake.
At my birthday party, we had a clown.
You had a what?
What the fuck? What kind of life do you live? Oh my god!
I mean, it's worth.
You know what? You put me in mind of
it's worth googling it because it's such an interesting picture. Like I have dark hair, but I'm wearing a blonde wig, and I'm basically a Barbie in a cake, and it's a massive cake. We're talking about so much cake. Now, for me, that's food, but it's art because it was an experience for people. Like they really, it was like a visual thing. Like you had to cut a piece of meat and then eat it. It was just kind of intense.
See, I'm just imagining the end to 102 Dalmatians where Glenn Close gets baked into a giant cake at the end by all of the puppies. Like,
I don't remember that. Did she?
Yeah. Have you not even seen the sequel?
I don't think so. No, I think I've only seen the original one.
Like the original cartoon or the original live action?
The original cartoon, I think.
Ugh.
I mean, I don't even remember that one. I mean, I remember the Aristocats more than I remember that.
Fuck the Aristocats! Fuck the Aristocats! Fuck that racist
Aristocats
piece!
are awesome.
It's racist!
Was it?
Yeah, there's like a huge, massively offensive Asian stereotype in the movie.
Oh,
who plays the piano with a chopstick.
All of the Asian cats. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because Disney wants you to forget about it.
That's too bad. Yeah, you're right. That kind of stuff isn't good. Oh, now you've ruined it for me.
Yeah, that's
that
what
will never be the same for me.
That's what I do. That's my job. I ruin Disney childhood memories for people. Do you want me to ruin another Disney movie? I can do that. I can rip into Dumbo.
I actually prefer, the Little Mermaid, the original. No, but the original Little Mermaid, the Japanese animation. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh, it's worth looking at. It's like Disney is just shit. Like Disney stuff is shit. Yeah. But the original, everyone should look it up. You can find it on YouTube. It's the original Little Mermaid, and she dies in the end. She turns into sea foam.
Yeah, well, that's what happened in the original Hans Christian Andersen novel, which...
Well, exactly. It's based on the original because she, in life, you don't get what you want.
But she does
in Disney, everything is always ending happy. It's always in a neat little package. But in real life, it's not like that. Yeah, so she turns into sea. She goes back to the ocean because she loses her voice, right?
Yeah.
She loses her voice in order to get him to have legs so she can be on land with him. But then he's not in love with her anymore because she doesn't have her talent.
Yeah, so, it gets with this other girl.
It's so realistic, right? It's more realistic, and then she turns into seafoam. But that's the one I watched when I was little, and I loved it, and it blew my mind. And I can't even watch the Disney one because the Disney one is crap.
Yeah, Disney keeps on repeatedly shitting all over Hans Christian Andersen, especially because the Emperor's New Clothes became the Emperor's New Groove. It's nothing like it. Frozen is supposed to be based on the Snow Queen, which is a beautiful story that they just shat all over. And
right, and actually the Snow Queen, the anime, the Japanese animation, they have that too. It's so much better. So much better.
Kimber the White Lion, anyone?
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
That Kimber the White Lion is what Disney stole to make The Lion King.
Oh.
Kimber, Simba.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I really don't. Well, I thought The Lion King. No, I'm thinking of Cats. Okay.
Making a movie of that.
I don't know. I'm losing track here, but yeah.
Welcome to Podcapers. This is what we do. We lose track.
Disney is, there's some parts of things I like going to Disneyland and just being mindless, but I'm not a fan of Disney movies overall.
Good. You're welcome anytime. Jeez. And so I'm going to go back to immersive theatre. So I've been to a single immersive theatre play up in Leith, which is in the north of Edinburgh, that a friend of mine's boyfriend was in, and it was all about, a lot of immigrants coming to leave because it's a port, and a lot of people came into that area, and it was very interesting and very immersive and very eye-opening. Actually, it was very good. But I don't have a lot of experience with it. So what is it about immersive theatre exactly over, for want of a better phrase, regular theatre that made you want to do it so much?
Well, I really like having the audience be involved, and I feel like if the audience is involved, they have more ownership. They can get into it more. They understand it. They pay attention more. I just think it's a better experience, and it's. So, like in some of my sculptures, I make these 3-dimensional sculptures that are interactive. And I feel like when people interact with your art, they feel like it's kind of their own more.
Yeah, I read it somewhere about, you did this one sculpture, it was a one art piece that was about date rape.
Right. Like, so there's a sculpture I did called Please Don't Look Up My Skirt. And it's a sculpture of a woman, and her body is sort of this, has no arms, but it's sort of like this metal torso cage kind of thing, and it's filled with porn, like pages of porn, and then that are all like crumpled, and that's her body, and then her face is sort of like a Botticelli painting, Renaissance painting, and you can and there's shells at the bottom of it, and it says "Please don't look up my skirt" over it, and then obviously many people want to look up her skirt because it's like you could. So some people will look and some people don't, and what people find, it's very shocking. And I've had people who looked up her skirt and then later came to me and said, "I'm really sorry. I wish I hadn't done that." And, I said, "Well, tell her that. Don't tell me that." So it is about date rape, and it's kind of surprising. But I feel like it educates, it's more interactive, you get more involved. It becomes part of your life experience more than looking at a painting on the wall that you're just looking at.
See, that sounds so fascinating to me, because you hear about a lot of modern art, a lot of new art, which is like unmade beds and cans of shit in tins and like laminated shark bits and stuff. And it feels like a lot of pretentious, easy to make, again, wank. And then you got something like that, which is meaningful and impactful and has a really interesting commentary to it.
Right.
And it's a new expression of art, and a really fucking interesting thing, because I'll be honest, when you said that like her body is made out of porn, I thought, well, I'm never going to one of her exhibits. And then you go further than that, and it's
well, you don't really see the porn unless you look really closely. It just looks like magazine pages that have been crumpled inside this mannequin torso.
Yeah.
And then so it's 3-dimensional.
You don't have to justify the porn on your art. It's fine.
Well, I love like Banksy, like the thing he did with the like making the painting go through the shredder, because it's kind of similar. It's there's a point to that. It's about the fleetingness of art, and what does art mean? Like, why are people that, like, someone will pay all this money for his art and then it just gets shredded. I just thought that was such a fuck you to the art world.
It is an art industry right now. I don't know a lot about it, but I saw that one episode of Aaron Ruben's Everything, or Aaron Ruben's art, and I don't know if you've seen that show, Adam Ruben's.
Have you seen the actual Banksy piece I'm talking about?
I heard of it, that it went through the shredder.
It was like a picture. It's his picture of the girl with the balloon, which was some graffiti, graffiti art, and then it sold for, I don't know, many millions of dollars. And then right as it sold, the shredder turned on and the piece shredded. So it's kind of like, that's why I did a whole series about the art world too, and I just found that really like a fuck you to the art world. And then he recently, I think he entered a contest, but he didn't put his own name on it. He didn't get accepted into this like art contest because he didn't sign his name to his art. It's just, there's a lot of bullshit, and I love the fact that he's sort of calling out the bullshit of the art world.
Yeah, because I mean,
and he did a whole I guess an immersive thing about Disney.
Oh.
It was like Did you hear about that?
No.
It was like, oh, it's amazing. He did this thing where he made like a Disneyland, but it was called Dismal Land.
Oh no,
And
I did hear about this.
Dismal Land, which was like a dismal Disney. I just think it's great. I think
So just like regular Disney then. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, what the truth of Disney, you know, what just like the underbelly, the dark underbelly of Disney that it won't let you see.
Like a statue of Walt Disney holding hands with Mickey with one hand and giving a Nazi salute with the other hand.
Oh my god, I shouldn't laugh, but yes.
No, you can laugh at, you know, the anti-Semite. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I think it's there's a lot of darkness there, and they kind of put like they're frosting it. They put all this frosting over it, and I just don't like it.
No, I don't
think
like
it's
it.
just like not.
I'm
cool.
looking at you, Tim Burton. Let's see what you do with the live-action Dumbo remake. Let's see. Let's fucking see.
I mean, I do love Tim Burton, so
yeah,
but they did. I mean, he came from that, and then he went and did his own thing. But yeah, I hope Dumbo is good. That's a sad story.
It's a sad story, but it kind of annoys me. So like, this is something I actually want to talk about for a while. I don't know if I mentioned before on the show. So the kid in the circus makes fun of the Dumbo elephant and yanks on his ears. The mum goes over and beats the living crap out of him, and then so the circus owners lock her up in a cage. Here's my question. Why don't they shoot her? Because, like, she's a mad elephant that they now have to house and feed. It's making them no money and no revenue and taking up space and taking up resources that they have to contain. And the people who have to handle her think that she's a mad elephant and they're afraid for their lives. Back in those days in the circus, they could do whatever the shit they wanted to their animals with no consequences, and that was an awful thing. So why didn't they shoot her?
Maybe because she was just so expensive. Like, they had paid a lot of money for her, and they still wanted to use her in the show.
But they're not using her in the show.
Oh, they weren't using her in the show anymore? I don't remember that.
They locked her up in a small cage with the word mad elephant on the side, and that was it. They never used her again until she got out of the end in the happy ending. It's just like, back in those days, like, why didn't they shoot her? Why was the mother
story
character...
wouldn't be as good. But I don't remember the mother staying in the story, but yeah.
Well, that whole movie is crap. It's like an hour long, but...
I don't remember Dumbo. I just remember that he was sad all the time.
Yeah, it's not worth remembering, in my opinion. But
Wasn't
anyway.
he sad all the time?
Pretty much, yes. Sad all the time because he had no agency in the movie. Like, everything was decided by everyone around him.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's either like the mouse or the circus owners or the other elephants or the racist stereotypes called crows.
Why don't they come up? They keep repeating all of the things that have been done. They need to just come up with some new things.
Thank you. Yeah,
why do they keep repeating these things? It's just like there's so many people who are making amazing stories out there for children. Like, take some of those and make them into new films.
I know exactly why they're doing it, and it's two of the most hateful words in the English language. Are you ready? Here they are. Brand recognition. If we re-release stuff that people already know, they'll go and see it, so it's guaranteed cash.
Yeah. It's really ugly. I don't like it. Yeah. You're completely right. It is brand recognition, but it's just rehashing the same things over and over again. Like, I don't know.
Which is why I'm so glad that we live in a world where people like you exist and are making new and interesting commentaries and viewpoints on art, whether it be in immersive theatre or children's books or fine art or music or graphic novels. And it feels fresh and new and interesting, and even if it seems familiar with other things, it's done and presented it in a new way, in an engaging way, and you can get immersed into this world. And it's... I mean, I would put this character... This is a very, very new character, but I honestly think, and it's impossible to predict these sort of things, but if I were to make a bet, and I'm not a betting man, but if I were to make a bet, I would say that... I'm rambling. I would say she's like one of these characters that will have a cult following behind her. Like, I don't know, the thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is like Modesty Blaze. Do you know familiar with that character?
I've heard of her, yes. Or there's actually, what is the character from the one who has it? Is it from who's the character in Suicide Squad?
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn, yeah. Like, she's a character who came out and now there's costumes. Actually, the creator of that came to my show.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was at the immersive show.
Oh wow.
He liked it a lot, but Yeah, we actually had some interesting people who came. You know who also came was Darren Aronofsky came to the show. Do you know the filmmaker Darren Aronofsky?
Yeah, dear God, yeah, wow.
Yeah, he brought his 12-year-old son, which was interesting.
Oh, God. Happy birthday, Timmy!
He was the sweetest kid, such a smart kid, and I kind of had to keep him, like, from seeing some of the scenes.
Okay, so I'm just going to place my hand right over your eyes, right here. There we go.
No, he loved it, and he was a good sport. I thought that was interesting that Darren Aronofsky would bring his 12-year-old son to my piece. It's like my show is sort of like children's book work compared to his, you know, like, oh, Cynthia's work, like, that's young adult.
Oh, that's the tame stuff.
Compared to his. I mean, even though there's nudity and all this crazy stuff, but to Darren Aronofsky comparing our work, my work isn't like the young adult work.
Does she transform into a black swan? No, it's tame enough.
I love his work. He's amazing talent.
I'm not that familiar with a lot of his work, but the little I had to know of it, I've heard is really, really good.
Oh, you should see his latest film, Mother.
No, I heard about that, yeah.
It got some, you know, like some mixed reviews, but it when you're watching that film, your mouth is just open and you're just sort of like, what the fuck is that? Like, it blew my mind. I
think it's because the little I know, I have heard of the story. It's the inevitability of destruction. It's this kind of weird naturalistic tragedy to it all.
It's definitely worth seeing because it will blow your mind. And it's not easy to shock me. I've seen it all, but like that film, just there was this one scene in it that I was just like, oh, I just couldn't believe it. So I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, and you know what else I recommend? I recommend Minky Woodcock. Where can people get this?
In comic book stores around the world, I guess. The publisher is Titan Comics. They're in England. But Diamond distributes it, and actually, the graphic novel is being distributed by Random House.
Oh, right, Random House
in the U.S. Yeah, so it's out there. You can also get it on Amazon or your local bookstore. You can, if they don't have it, you can order it. There's a whole website, minkywoodcock.com.
Link in the show notes, Capers. Check it out.
Yeah, and there's also, I highly recommend on that website, there's a section called Evidence. And if you go to that, you can actually see the ephemera and the actual evidence of everything that's in the book.
Oh, it's also Nancy Drew. I love it.
A little bit beyond that, but yes.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew works very hard.
I love Nancy Drew. Grew up on it, yeah. But anyway, I think we should probably tie this up now, huh? I guess I need to go have some dinner.
Yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, I like talking about your work. I'm sorry to keep you.
Oh, no, it's been such a pleasure.
No, it's been lovely having you on. And if you enjoyed the show, Capers, please tell your friends. Shout it from the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like our last episode talking to Lyndon White about candles, which I believe he also worked with Random House on that one as well. So check that out. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards. Patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC, or email us at podcapers@ap2hyc.com. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone with the red and blue 3D glasses, those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!